This is not the internet. This is the Metaverse. Hello, pioneers. Well, this week we've had some huge news with the release of Pi Network Ventures funding of OpenMind. Now, to start with, we had another post from Jan, giving a bit of a hint to something coming in September. We've seen this before with this little cryptic post, and that ended up being Bankser. So it seems that Diangi's sort of the default spokesman for Pi Core team at the moment. And then we had OpenMind. They did a post saying they were going to release something on the 4th, and that was the 20 million funding, right? So they got 20 million funding. That was really great. So if you watch the end of this video, or if you go down to the post, you'll see that they tagged Pi Core team, and here we got Pi Network Ventures, okay? So this is fantastic news. Now, who is OpenMind? Okay, so we know they're doing something with robots, and we've got this guy here, and this is Jan Liphardt, okay? And if you go to his LinkedIn profile, right, you'll see we've got the Stanford University connection again, okay? So in his education, Reed College, University of Cambridge, and Stanford University. Now, looking at his experience, right, you can see that he was at UC Berkeley. He's the founder of OpenMind, as we know. He's a professor of bioengineering, right? That's going to be important later at Stanford University. And something we didn't know, though, was that he's actually involved with StartX, right, as Nicholas is as well. Okay, so that's another connection there. Now, we know Stanford, we've got these big connections, right? We've got the big StartX with Nicholas being the CTO previously before. The only thing I worry about this sort of funding is that, hopefully this isn't just going to be a boys club thing and, all their mates from Stanford, okay? And, just in case core team's watching, I did actually go to a pretty prestigious school myself, so there is that. Now, back to OpenMind, right, and Jan. Okay, the other thing that he did, he was actually responsible for Fever Aikiu, okay, right, so that's something that's really interesting as well. And you can see here, right, he's listed here, and also with Enya AI, okay, so going to their website, I looked at their team, I couldn't see his name there, but that probably just means that he's no longer with the project, and I just looked at the CEO here, and you can see he also went to Stanford University grad school, okay. So there's all these connections through Stanford, as we normally know. The other thing I noticed was that Ulu Ventures, okay, they're funding them as well. And as we know, Ulu is funded of one of the funding guys of Pi Network as well. Okay, so what is OpenMind doing? Okay. Because they've got these robots here, but what you'll find is they're not actually doing the hardware themselves, they're doing the operating system, okay? So building Android for robots. And this is the operating system, it's called OM1, okay? Powers real-world intelligence for any robot, humanoid or quadruped, okay? So this is cool. Now, I did find a picture of the robot on the back of it, and as you can see, it's actually powered by Apple hardware, right? And in the robo-dog, you can actually see the hardware as well, okay? So that's just a bit of extra information. The robots, okay, they made this post. They were testing on these hardware from Deep Robotics in China. But looking at the website, you can see that the robo-dogs don't really match what we've got in the graphic there. And but I follow a guy called Centdex on YouTube, right? And he does a lot of videos on these Unitree G1s, okay? So if you go over there, you can see we've got a bit more of a match now, right? So I'm pretty sure that they're using the robots from Unitree. And if you go in a bit further, right, you can see that the RoboDog matches as well, okay? So it doesn't really matter what hardware they're using because they're building the operating system. Now, OpenMind wants to be the Android operating system of humanoid robots, okay? So we're basically he's going to do his network, right? And this is rolling out actually now of 10 robo-dogs, okay? So he's got 10 robo-dogs, he's got the OS running on each one of them, but you need some form of communication, right? To have location and identity and all that type of thing, okay? So this is where they bring in this thing called Fabric, okay? So it's a decentralized network, right? Brings things like GPS, the way to do trusted location, identity, and it's also a peer-to-peer network, right? So it does trusted identity, multi-agent collaboration, and real-time decision-making, okay? And what does that sound like? Well, it sounds like a blockchain, doesn't it, right? So pretty sure they're doing blockchain tech, and since we've got the Pi Network partnership, we're hoping this blockchain is Pi. Now, I'm going to show you a bit later how I don't think that's really the case, but there must be something that the Pi Network's going to be providing, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have invested in this company. Now, currently, the Science of Blockchain conference is still running, right? This is coordinated in part by Stanford Center for Blockchain Research, and when we've got the, and they're sponsored by OpenMind, right? So now if you go a bit further and you look at the graphic that he's got up there, right, he's talking about blockchains here, okay? So it's definitely blockchain that's going to be provided in the Fabric. In the last year, Jan has released, quite a few articles and that, from CoinDesk and a few other places, and you can see here he says that, in my view, blockchains, digital money, and smart contracts were invented and are being actively refined to serve as the fundamental financial and governance rail for the new world. Okay, so pretty strong language there, right? But this is what I'm saying, that it's all going to be blockchain powered, of course. And if you look a bit more into this Fabric, okay, one of the things is verifiable machines. Right, so robots join network with proof of identity and verified physical location, okay? So this is using public keys and GPS, right? This is out of these articles. Trusted collaboration, machines share data and skills with built-in rules for access, usage, and provenance, okay? So this is smart contracts and shared intelligence, okay? This is where machines learn, like they're formed into teams that learn, earn, and grow, okay? So this is micropayments, all right? So I've covered things like micropayments before, and this is where all this blockchain tech really, really excels. Now, unfortunately, this is where I come in with the bad news, because it seems, according to this article, that OpenMind partnered with a company called Dymo, and they're providing the blockchain, okay? So, that's unfortunate for Pi. I still think Pi is going to be used for something. Maybe Dymo is going to be used initially, and maybe Pi gets to cut over. I'm not really sure, but Pi will be definitely involved somewhere. You can see Dymo is pioneering the blockchain-powered stack for identity permissions, payments, and data access for physical objects, starting with cars and soon expanding to other intelligent hardware. Okay, so that's pretty cut and dry. That's what they're using. These are the boxes. Okay, the blockchain was on Polygon. It's since moved to layer 2 on Base. But looking at the robotics hardware of the robot and the robo-dog, I couldn't really see these boxes. Now, there are places where they actually could be. So, I'm not really sure. But, that's just, from what I can tell, Dymo is actually the one using the blockchain. Now, just as an aside, this is a bit speculation, but when I got this name Fabric, right, it got me thinking about where I'd heard it before, right? And it's under Google's Matter, okay? They use Fabric as well. And Matter, right, that's essentially their OS for operating smart homes, okay, and IoT devices, okay? So there's sort of this cross thing here. Now, what sort of caught my eye here is the logos, right? Because as you know, Google has their color scheme. They use this color scheme in all their logos everywhere, from Gemini and all that. And OpenMind has a similar color scheme, right? Now this doesn't mean anything, it's just something that I found curious, okay? And also if you look at the Fever IQ graphic, you can see that pi is actually done in the same color scheme, right? And that's a bit more cut and dry. So something very interesting going on there. You got Google DeepMind as well, right? And this is called OpenMind, right? Doesn't really mean anything, right? These are just things I'm just sort of putting together. We've also had posts like this. People are suggesting there's going to be some collaboration between Google and all that, right? We've all speculated about the Gemini before being the AI, because right now we still don't know what the AI is powering all the chatbots or anything. So just something to speculate about, keep in the back of the mind. Maybe there is something there, maybe there isn't. Now, we've always had the Stanford connections, right? And as you can see, as time passes, we're getting more and more connections, okay? So we had the Pi Network founders to start with, okay? We've also got David Mazeris from Stellar, who created the SCP protocol, okay, consensus protocol. He's a professor at Stanford. I've also covered before about Russ Altman, okay? He's a professor of bioengineering as well. Remember I talked about bioengineering before. And now we've got Jay come on board, right? Who is another professor of bioengineering, right? So there's a connection there. We've got him coming on with OpenMind. He's done Fever IQ before. And of course we've got the StartX connection. Okay, so this is all to say that, we're seeing all these connections. We're starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Obviously Stanford and Pi is a huge part of all of this. Now what's with all this bioengineering? Because even though they're doing a lot of software development here, operating systems, AI, all this type of thing, blockchains, there's a very heavy lean on biology as well, right? So I'm curious about what comes in with this, right? And I'll tell you why. And that's because a couple of years ago, right, something you don't know about me is that I did an interview with a place called Cortical Labs in Melbourne, right? Now, what these guys are doing, okay, is organoid intelligence, okay? And that's where they're taking cells, right, and connecting them up to computers and actually doing machine learning through biology, right? And these cells react and they reward them when they get the answer right. And because they can do that, they actually trained it to actually play Pong, right? So it starts off playing Pong, wasn't that really great at it, and then over time, as it gets rewarded for doing the right thing, it actually was starting to play Pong, right? So you're getting this connection between biology and blockchain and CPUs and computers and all this, right? And it's all very, very interesting. And I really was keen for this startup to join them. Now, I went over to Melbourne, right? It took me a long time. I met with two of the guys, right? The CTO and the Chief Hardware Officer, right? Two really cool guys. We got on great. I did the interview. After the interview, they took me out for lunch and all that. And after that, they essentially told me that I had the job, okay? Because they said I was the best candidate. They really liked me, right? So that was great. So I even started doing all this architecture, right? That's what I was going to be brought on for, right? To expand their IT infrastructure. And so I started doing all that, and I even came up with something I thought they could go from Pong and maybe do tarot card readings, right? So I sent that over to the CEO and all that. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks later though, the CTO contacted me via email. It was his personal email, not the company one, and told me that, sorry, job's no longer there. I tried to convince him, didn't work, and I've subsequently left the company. Right, so I don't know what happened. I don't know whether they lost their funding because they had $10 million in funding, actually from the CIA to start with, was one of the investors. And for some reason, this all fell through, right? So that was a real shame because I was really keen on that. But I wanted to highlight Cortical Labs because they're introducing this connection between biology and artificial intelligence and running on hardware, right, and doing machine learning, right? So it was really, really cool stuff. Now, I just sort of didn't want to let this Tyro go to waste, right? Since we've got the chat AI chatbots now, right? So I tried to make the app in there. Unfortunately, I got this far on the desktop and it won't let me create the app. Okay, so I have to do it through the phone, right? And that's going to take me a lot longer with copying text and all that, right? So I'll do that for another time. But yeah, that would have been cool to have that running. In Pi news, okay, we've had an update to the Pi app. Okay, now this is for this introduction of passkeys. I'll talk about passkeys introduction in Protocol 21, how that's coming. It's obviously coming already. I don't have it on my phone, so I can't show you, right? So I've updated my app, but it just hasn't come up for me yet, right? So they're slowly rolling it out. So when it does, I'll include that in the video and we can watch that process. And the other thing is we had TransFi added, right, for our onboarding, right, of Pi, okay? So there's just a couple of little news bits. So that's it for the video. Really cool, you know, I thought that was a fantastic announcement, right? You know, what a way to launch Pi Network Ventures by having such a huge project associated with Stanford, and obviously it's all their buddies as well. They've known each other for a long time, but yeah, really great that you know, they've invested into OpenMind. Who knows what Pi Network's involvement's going to be? It's definitely going to be involved in a huge way. I can guarantee you that, right? Because they wouldn't have invested in it otherwise. Okay, so yeah, excellent. We'll keep watch. We'll see what comes out on you know, coming up, and yeah, hopefully myself I can get funding for Pi Network Ventures as well. So that's it for the video, and I'll catch you later.